Hello and welcome to another End User Talk podcast. I'm your hostess, Jamila, your lady in tech. Hello and welcome to the End User Talk podcast. I'm your hostess, Jamila, your lady in tech. Thank you for joining us today. I have, of course, another amazing guest to introduce you to. First off, let's say this. Thank you for taking time out of your very, very busy schedule to meet with me and talk with me today. I have Domo Stanton, also known as Domo.
How you doing?
How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
You know what? I'm doing okay. Just in case our listeners aren't familiar with who you are, do you mind giving us a brief introduction?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Domo Stanton. I'm a full-time comic artist, and I also stream on Twitch as a full-time streamer as well. I've worked on various comic series for DC Comics, for Marvel Comics. I've drawn WWE books, and I've even worked in animation. If you guys have ever heard of a series called Archer, I worked on that show from season 3 to season 5.
Oh my goodness. No, you didn't.
Yes.
Oh my God. Do you know that is my favorite? Oh my goodness. Archer. I absolutely love Archer.
Do you really?
Oh my gosh. When I'm going to get the box set. Now, mind you, I've watched it over and over and over and over again.
Have you?
Yes, but I do like having those. I like owning them.
Yeah.
So if it's something that really speaks to me, I will buy it. So I will be buying it. Oh my gosh. Let me just tell you one thing about Archer. I enjoy the art drawing style or technique.
Yeah.
I love the thick lines.
Yeah.
That was so attractive to me when I saw that. I was just like, oh my gosh, because it's your traditional, I want to say comic style. Like you said, it's in line with what you've been doing, more long comics. But to see that in like a film or in the form of a TV show, that is amazing. I just loved it.
And that was probably like the cool thing about working on that show is when I came on, the show creators were even saying that the original inspiration behind the style of Archer was like comic books and stuff. Because I don't know if you're familiar with the studio itself. It's called Floyd County Studios. So they originated from a studio called, I think it was 7020. And before they had made cartoons like C-Lab 2021 and Frisky Dingo, which were Adult Swim Cartoon Network cartoons. And eventually that studio had closed down and they reemerged as Floyd County, where they kind of expanded on the Frisky Dingo style with Archer, and with every season, they kind of just improve more and more on that style. But it was pretty cool when I had joined the team because of the fact that like they were heavily influenced with comic books. And that's kind of what helped push the style of the show.
Now, ironically, I have never been into comics. Now, I am aware of DC Comics and Marvel. I'm aware of it, but I can't say that I'm a connoisseur or a subject matter expert. But I mean, I enjoy, you grow up and you watch cartoons or comics.
Yeah.
I'm aware of comic books. I'm not a collector.
Sure.
So let me ask you, as an artist, I know that artists do have their own style or technique.
Yeah.
How does one adapt or change to a style in the lines of DC Comics or Marvel Comics, if it's not something that you particularly do?
So the interesting part about it is I feel like these days, in the overall scope of comics, now you don't really have to sort of conform to a specific style. And that's something that I feel like I personally have never had to do. Like there are certain things about like American comics that sure you kind of have to lean towards in order for editors to want to look at your style to take it seriously for their comics. But for the most part, like you think of like old school comics from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, and all of it kind of looked the same in terms of like, big musculature, skinny waist, super sexy looking characters. But I feel like a lot of that has actually changed throughout the years of comics becoming more international. So stylistically, there's actually, I feel like a lot more openness towards different types of style for comics. So really, it's just about being a great storyteller. Like that's probably the most important thing I would say in order to sort of like get work or get the attention of a lot of these comic companies. Otherwise, it's really just about studying anatomy, studying perspective. Can you draw, a person driving a car in a city? Can you draw someone punching someone in the face and making it look cool? You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Right.
at the end of the day, I think it just more becomes about the ability to draw certain things that attracts in a story. I would say that attracts the companies more.
So basically, if you are an artist, because everybody is really, really focused or obsessed with being unique,
Mm-hmm.
singular. You
Mm-hmm.
have to have your signature, and when you put your work out, everybody knows. Oh, that's a Domo Stanton. You
Right.
know, everybody's so stuck with that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any fear or taboo with you working with other companies or organizations? Is there any type of taboo with you losing your technique when you're focusing on something else that's not necessarily originated?
Mm-hmm. Not necessarily, because I definitely know what you mean in terms of sort of changing your style to fit a certain mold of like a certain company, right? But I think in my case, I've always been able to just draw, and that's the most important thing. Is I got into comics because I always enjoyed storytelling. Like that's kind of why I kind of moved beyond like just illustration. Like you see artists like Norman Rockwell that do like the Pepsi posters and stuff like that, and they're just kind of singular illustration. And he's probably like one of the best kind of those type of illustrators, because even in those single images, there's so much energy and story that you find in a lot of his work. But for me, I think just the idea of comics and the storytelling in it really drew me to wanting to draw comics. And I've been really fortunate to be able to just draw. So there's never really been a case where I've had to, besides working in animation, that was the only time where I had to like completely conform to a very specific style that fit like that particular show. Otherwise, like in the Marvel stuff that I've worked on, for
Mhm.
drawing Deadpool, drawing Punisher, then switching over to DC, drawing Catwoman, and drawing Swamp Thing, and even like heading over to Boom Studios, drawing the WWE work. I've been really fortunate to just draw. Like no one's ever asked me to like conform a certain way, like draw more detailed in one area or less detailed. I just kind of take all the knowledge that I learned from studying how to draw the figure, how to draw perspective, and just put it in all the work I do.
Well, that's amazing. And that was going to be one of my questions. Are you gifted in that this is a natural ability, or did you go to school and learn?
Actually, that's a really good question, because I actually get that a lot on my streams, where people would ask if I went to school for art. And the thing is I did go to Atlanta College of Art in 2005, and that school closed down after my freshman year, and I transferred over to Savannah College of Art and finished my degree in illustration. But the interesting thing about it is I never really felt like it was natural. Like I had always worked, even outside of school, on trying to figure out how to get better at art and how to understand it more. And even after I went to school, a lot of the things that they taught there were things that I had learned on my own outside of school. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
It wasn't necessarily going to school that helped me get better. It was more like I kind of learned a lot more experience from hanging out with other like-minded artists, because that was something that I never really had growing up, was just being able to meet other artists and hang out with other artists. I was always the best artist in my town, that type of deal. But it wasn't necessarily like a natural gift, I would say. Like, it was something that I have always had to really work hard and understand and practice to get better at. And what's interesting, that the love of it itself came from reading comic books when I was a kid. And when I saw a lot of my friends who would try to sketch like the characters in the comics and stuff, it was something that I tried and I wasn't really good at, to be honest. But I like the feeling of getting better and working hard and growing and putting forth the effort. So I couldn't really say that school helped me get better. It sort of helped affirm a lot of things that I had already learned. But also, if you consider the amount of information that is out now in 2021 because of the internet, how you can just go on the internet, type in how to draw heads, how to draw animals, how to draw cars, and instantly in Google find like tutorials on how to draw this stuff, which is a lot of stuff that I didn't have back then. And I kind of feel like back then there was this notion that you kind of had to go to school in order to find success in any career that you were doing, which I found was it was what it was.
Right. You know what? Sometimes it's kind of that deal where sometimes I can learn more. Well, because you think school kind of takes you that around the block approach. Mm-hmm. Right. Because everybody's like, well, this is what I want to do. This is who I want to be. And you just want to get to the nitty and the gritty.
Right.
I just want to draw what I want to draw. But the school has to teach you the history. They want to teach you the art style, the art form, the techniques, the different types of techniques. They want you to learn the different types of artists. They want you to also take on the challenge of learning how to mimic, because that's what you're doing. You're basically mimicking these different art styles until you get to a point to where you're comfortable and you have selected a style, a flow that you consider yourself aligned with. You identify.
Well, the way I think about it also is like, you take handwriting, for example. When you're a kid and, you're in elementary school and you're learning how to write, and you're understanding what writing is, you're understanding what language is, what letters are. And, you take a full classroom of kids and, we're all studying the same thing. But then by the end of the class, you have us all write an essay, and you'll see that everyone has different types of handwriting, right? And I feel the same thing applies to art, where at the end of the day, all of us has a way that we do things. And I feel like that's sort of how style comes about in general, is by nature, as we grow up, doing something with repetition over and over and over, we kind of have a natural way that we do things. Now, that's not to say also that we aren't influenced by other things, whether it's someone else's handwriting. You look at somebody else's handwriting and you try to replicate it until like you figure out, oh, so these are the shapes. These are the shapes that create A's. These are the shapes that create the B, C, D, E, F, G, and I kind of feel like that same thing sort of applies to art, where like as you continue to study shapes and replicate those shapes and understand those shapes, eventually you start to build a muscle memory of how to create those shapes. And that in turn is what becomes your style.
I've attended a few and viewed a few streamers who are amazing artists. Kino Not is someone I interviewed as well. He also,
I know Kai.
Yeah, so I interviewed him. You guys kind of do the similar comics. You're in gaming, if you will. What's interesting is when you tune into anyone's stream who is an artist, everyone's approach is different. So the way that they start, I guess the warm up, I think is what I'm looking for. Yeah. Everyone's warm up session is different. I also interviewed Young Khan, and he has a warm up that he does. When you stream, when someone is to tune in, do you have a warm up?
Lately I've been sort of warming up with doing sort of just random ink sketches. I don't know if you're familiar at all with the artist Kim Jong-gi.
I've heard.
Yeah, he's an incredible artist. Like he would just make these really amazing ink drawings with just a brush, no pencil, no undersketch, no pre-planning, nothing. He just takes a brush and starts drawing. And like somehow, some way, everything he puts on paper is just like perfect. It's just the most beautiful artwork. So like I've been sort of practicing doing that type of stuff, where with no pencil, no undersketch, no pre-planning, just like I start stream, I get chat to name a random character, and whatever name pops in my head that I like from what chat throws out, I just straight break out a pen and I'll draw that character. And the idea behind sort of testing my might with that exercise is that I understand anatomy, I understand perspective, and I understand proportions. All of those things come together to create the three-dimensionality of the artwork that we come up with. And my idea is, if I practice more without relying on the pencil, without relying on the undersketch, then it'd be cool if, like, I could sort of use my mind and use the repetition that I've built over time and use that muscle memory to try to replicate the sort of way that Kim Jong-gi draws, in a way that he just like creates these perfect compositions without needing a pencil.
That's one of the one things you look at an artist and they have a blank slate or canvas, and it's like, where exactly do you get your I don't want to say inspiration, but when you're looking at a blank canvas, how do you know what to put on it? What belongs on this canvas? What deserves to be here to occupy this space? How do you come to that? Now, I know what you're saying, what you do with your warm up, but when you are alone and you're thinking of the next project or the next concept?
I'm always thinking about shapes. I think shapes are such an important part of just figuring out art, figuring out language, figuring out visual mediums in general. And to really simplify it, I'll use an example of letters. You look at an A, like a capital A, for instance, right? And to inform you of a capital A, you have 3 lines. You have the 2 lines that connect, that create the sides of the A, and then you have the line in the center that crosses, right? And you see those lines come together in that shape, and that forms an A. So that anytime you see those 3 lines together in that shape, you'll always know that it's an A. But then you have a capital H, right? And a capital H has the same exact amount of lines, the 2 lines on the side and the line in the center. But the lines on the side are now shaped in a different manner, where rather than connecting, now they're going straight up and down parallel. So by changing the shape, you literally drew the same exact thing, but you slightly changed the shape and it becomes a completely different letter. So that's kind of the way that I think about everything, whether I'm drawing a person or a car or a building or a trash can or a cat or, whatever I'm drawing. The first thing I'm trying to think about is, okay, what does the shape look like if I were to break it down as simple as possible? What are the basic shapes that I can break up to understand how to create this thing in a 3-dimensional form? And it may take a couple of shapes to get there, but you think about like the hand, how I could probably build the hand with a square and a couple of cylinders, and that's sort of the place to start, is building a simple understanding. Because at the end of the day, I think a lot of people focus too hard on the intricacies of everything too early on. Like, you think about drawing a face, for instance, and it's like, it's intimidating because it's like, whoa, like how can I ever understand how to draw a face? But then rather than thinking of it as a face and thinking about it as a set of various shapes that are placed on more shapes, as you start to break those shapes down and understand them, your brain starts to then understand it a lot more, because we like simple. The more simple something is, the easier it is to understand. You can look at a math equation and see that 2 + 2 is 4 equals, easy. Whereas like, you look at 2 + 2 times 10 minus 7 times 56 divided by 87, and then you're you start to freak out. You're like, wait,
exactly. Larger, yeah. There's too much. It's getting. I'm having to think.
Yeah, like it then becomes like, a thing where you start to like, oh man, how will I ever understand this? And I feel like a lot of times when someone that's not as experienced with art sees what like an artist of like 10 plus experience does, that's what they see in their mind, is that crazy, insane equation, and they can't fathom it. But I feel like once you actually show anybody, literally anybody, once you show them that 2 + 2 = 4, then they'll say like, oh, okay, like that's actually really easy. And like, I feel like once you just help build that understanding of shapes from the simplest form, and then continue to get more complex the more you understand, anybody could do it, really.
Okay, let's talk about the tools that you use in order to help you bring your art to life. I want to start, I guess, with the software. Are you someone who uses a Mac or a PC with Adobe Lightroom or another program? Or are you a tablet like an iPad Pro or the Wacom tablet? Now there are several different brands out there. Are you strictly pen to paper or paintbrush?
So I think all tools are great. Like I definitely don't discriminate towards like anything. Any and every tool you can make to create art, I think is helpful in anyone's case, because everybody's different. Everybody has like a different understanding of art, and everybody is more proficient in different tools. In every case. In my case, I grew up on traditional tools. So like, pen, pencil, paint, that type of stuff. Like I love and enjoy. When it comes to the digital stuff, I have used Wacoms before. I don't own one. Currently I own a Microsoft Surface. And I'm more proficient with Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop. And I mostly use it for coloring stuff. When I worked on Archer, we actually use Adobe Illustrator to create the characters, and most of that show is animated in After Effects and Adobe Flash. But yeah, for the most part, like I'm not super proficient with paints. In terms of paints, I mostly love watercolor and gouache. I'm not much of a fan of oils. And I do like acrylics too, but I would definitely say watercolor and gouache I like a lot. I love color pencils. I don't often use them these days, but I remember as a kid coloring with Crayola color pencils. To this day, I still use Crayola color pencils.
Yes, I remember them. You graduated from the crayon box to the color pencil. Yep.
Yep. Markers I love as well. Recently I've really been getting into the Copic brands. Copics are amazing. They can be on the expensive side most of the time, but I love Copics. Prismacolors I use too. But for my professional work, like for the actual comic stuff that I do, I mostly stick to pencils and pens, Copic pens. And if I have the opportunity to draw a cover, what I'll do is I'll draw the pages traditionally, scan them, and then color them digitally in Photoshop.
Do you work on any private or private projects like commissions and things?
When conventions were a thing pre-COVID, I did do a lot of commission type work. But honestly, I haven't really sold much of my artwork after COVID really hit hard. And there's no real specific reason why. I guess like around the same time was when I also started to pick up a lot more work from DC. So right now I'm just kind of in a place where I just kind of rather focus on getting better at my craft and getting better at what I do. And maybe at some point I'll probably open up commissions again. But for right now, my focus is definitely more on just streaming and the professional work.
Well, that sounds amazing. That sounds really cool. I'd love to see some of your commissions if they're ready for the public eyes. One thing, the way I was introduced to you was through my Twitter feed. There was, I don't know who it was, if it was a retweet, but it came across my Twitter feed. And it was simply, yo, want to put y'all onto some dope Black female content creators. Now, of course, that caught my eye. And so I was looking at these different, it was amazing in how you were introducing these young women. You were doing it in the form of not showing a clip or anything, but in your art style. It's a portrait in your likeness of how you captured them. Can I ask, what was the inspiration behind that?
So I've always been sort of in the walks of doing like portrait type stuff, but more on like the caricature side. My very first job when I was a kid, 15 years old, was doing caricatures at Six Flags. I'm from Maryland, so I worked at that Six Flags for like 2 or 3 summers, and I even did a summer in Atlanta one year. So caricatures have been something that have always stuck with me over the years. And even when it comes to drawing comics, in terms of storytelling, being able to capture emotion, whether it's like sadness, happiness, whatever the case, anger. I've always been sort of into capturing sort of a feeling of a character. And when it came to February for Black History Month, I find that in general on Twitch, you don't often find a lot of Black female content creators on the platform in high regard or like with high numbers or in a place that like you can easily find them unless you're actively looking for them, you know? Like I feel like they're really underrepresented on the platform, and the thing is I feel like there's an argument to be said that, you know, if a content creator is good and entertaining, then they'll get those numbers. But I find that in general, a lot of minorities on not just Twitch, but like any platform, tend to get overlooked a lot, and I don't necessarily think it's by fault of the companies. It's just when you have a market that's worldwide, minorities tend to, and maybe I don't know, minorities tend to get overlooked a lot, and especially I feel like Black women are extremely underrepresented in those aspects. So what I wanted to do with the portraits is just do my part to say like, you know, hey, you know, here's some Black content creators, specifically women, on the platform that are amazing, you know, and the followership of a lot of these streamers spanned from like, you know, anywhere from like 500 followers to like 100K followers. Like I just wanted to, in general, like showcase that like Black women do exist on the platform. And here's some of my favorite ones, you know, and I wanted to focus on doing one portrait a day. And, you know, also because of the fact that I only have so much power in my markers, right? Like markers do have a limit. So I focused on just doing one portrait a day because I really wanted to capture the essence of each streamer, the personality in the image that I was drawing. And I was hoping that by people seeing that artwork that I was creating of those streamers, all of them who are just absolutely beautiful women, who I find that are entertaining as well, and great content creators in general, that by seeing those portraits that people might be intrigued to maybe go check them out, give them a follow. And in a lot of aspects, it worked. Like I had so many people come to my streams saying like, you know, thank you, Domo, for doing this, because I got a chance to check out Betty Nix or Cup of Noodle or Story Mode Bay. I'd never seen them before, but man, they are so hilarious. Like I love their streams, and I'm so glad that you were doing these, you know. So it was really cool to be able to bring that to a lot of people.
Well, I think I'm going to say thank you first and foremost for doing that. Prior to, us actually speaking, I did, or recording at least, I mentioned to you that, being new to Twitch, it is difficult to sort through all of the different streamers. And if you're specifically looking for someone that speaks to you or looks like you, that can also be very cluttered and convoluted. And not everyone knows a name, they may not know a personality. So, you just, like you would with even YouTube, you're just doing a generic search. And through that search, you're hoping that through all of the different videos, you'll see something that stands out and you want to actually press play or join. Right. So I want to say thank you to you first and foremost for honoring and bringing attention to these young women, because it is hard for them. And a good majority of the women that you actually have drawn, I've had the honor and pleasure and opportunity to interview. Some being, as a matter of fact, Story Mode Bay was my very, very first interview.
Oh, wow, really?
Yes, awesome. She, and I'm very grateful to her, because if she hadn't given me this person who she did not know, who was in her DMs on Twitter, she could have clearly, brushed me off, not responded. But I'm very grateful to her for accepting my invitation and being so gracious. So Story Mode Bay, Chelsea Bites was another one. I've had the opportunity of interviewing Mira. There's several on here, and I was just kind of scrolling through your art here, and yes, please, definitely continue to do that. I'm grateful to you for doing it. And these women do deserve the acknowledgement. Cup of Noodle, I'm hoping one day I'll be able to add her to, the list as well. Cup is actually, she's cool people. Yeah, she seems like the person you want to hang out with, after hours. But many of them are like that, so I'm hoping that this, the fact that color is a deterrent for someone to give you a chance, I'm hoping that will change. So you being a supporter and showing your support, using you're blessed even with your talent. Oh, you're gifted. You're welcome. I mean, I play at drawing. Now maybe if I had stuck with it, I could be better. But, unfortunately, I didn't have the encouragement or even the, I guess, I don't know, maybe within myself, I didn't think I was good enough. So, of course, it's something that fell by the wayside.
Confidence is definitely
there you go. Confidence, the self-confidence in yourself and your ability, and at least trying something, even if you don't know if it's going to work out for you. Right. Trying it. Yeah. So. Yeah, but I appreciate you, and you're talented. You are super, super talented.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But thank you for taking your time and your ability and using it in this form. A lot of these, I mean, when you look at it, if you've ever gone to a carnival or a Six Flags, what used to be Six Flags. I too worked at Six Flags one year, back in the day. And I remember the character artists out there. And I always thought that was such a cool talent, to see yourself in a comic or in this style, this art style. So thank you for taking the time to utilize this ability to honor and, actually present these women to those who may not know that they are there. And I think it's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like doing these type of things too. It's like it's tough sometimes, because like the whole idea of me starting it is what I wanted to do is just say, like, hey, here's some women on the platform that are absolutely amazing. And it's not necessarily to, say they're the best, or that, they're better than anyone else. 'Cause at the end of the day, February is only 28 days. So there's a lot of women on the platform that we're obviously going to get left out. But it was my hope that, like, by at least sort of starting the dialogue in a way, like giving you guys a blueprint to, hey, you guys can start here, that hopefully what tends to happen, and it's something that I notice in my recommendeds on Twitch as well, is the more that you start to check out these type of demographics, the more you're recommended, and that's sort of my hope, is that, like, once I started looking up these women like Mira and Chelsea and Kiki X Baby and Woofy, all of a sudden my recommendeds started to lean more towards more Black women on the platform that are either up and coming or are great content creators in general. So like I really just wanted to do this to kind of help swivel the curve a little bit, like hopefully people check these women out, and then, they'll find that their recommended start to change, and that more Black women on the platform start getting seen,
And you know what, we definitely appreciate that, because that's the one thing. If you are in the position and you have a platform and you have a voice and you have the ability to bring attention to things that someone might be missing, or there may be an unfair advantage, it's giving everyone the benefit of the doubt and letting people know that there's a whole world of talent out here. It's not just this little corner, of the same faces and the same names and the same types.
Right.
I mean, even when you play a video game, everyone has their own style, their own technique. It's all different. It could be the same video game, and you could watch this same video game every day in a week's time. And each individual brings their own. They just bring it to life in their way.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like that. So it's great that you used your platform and you weren't afraid to bring attention to these women. And we need advocates. I'm a Black woman. I'm a mother of 3 daughters, and I do my best to make certain that my girls do have examples. But if other people don't share this knowledge and the greatness that they found, then these people will go undiscovered. Yeah. And then how are you to inspire other people, behind you? So again, it's very appreciated. It's needed. And who knows, you may have started something.
I hope so.
You may have
I did see a lot of people that were starting to join in with like drawing portraits of various streamers. So that was pretty cool to see.
Well, we need a hashtag for that. So we know that you were the originator, or at least as far as I'm aware, you were definitely the originator. So maybe we need us a hashtag.
All that.
Well, it's actually neat just to know that other people think, hey, I want to share too. So if nothing else, it's just a matter of having the like-minded individuals with the same intent, just to bring attention and focus. So
I would love it, man. I would love it, because like even like I got a chance to draw Kiwi. Kiwi on the Six was another streamer that I drew, and she loved hers so much. And Kiki X Baby almost broke out in tears on my stream because she was saying how, like, she never really gets included in stuff like that. Same thing for Luna Lyric, who, like, even when it comes to Black women that are mixed, a lot of times they often get like left out of being represented in these type of things. So it was my pleasure to be able to say, like, I see you, you're included, I think you're amazing, and I hope people check you out as well. And
I've
like
seen
just
Kiki
to kind of see the
too.
happiness.
Yeah, that is so sweet. It is so hard to know what your impact is, your effect on people, because, you're not necessarily doing it to be acknowledged or fame or glory. Now, mind you, if those things happen, I don't see too many people, backing down or turning away from it. But sometimes you're just doing that thing I love.
Yeah.
I'm doing this thing that I enjoy. I don't really want to do it in silence. I want to share it. So I'm going to use this tool, these resources, to share. Yeah. And who knows what'll happen. So yeah, I can definitely see someone being very humbled and very grateful for someone actually seeing them and letting other people know, hey, I see you and you need to check this person out. So I definitely can, I can imagine the emotion that would be behind that. So yeah, I'm with them on that. So you've done a good thing. You really have.
That.
Well, we are winding down on the podcast, and I do want to let you know, I appreciate you again for taking time out. I do apologize. I was late.
Oh, yeah, no worries. It happens to the best of us,
I am so sorry. I am truly better than that. So I hope that with that, me being late, that this was a good experience for you. But I'm going to tell you, I've enjoyed this conversation with you. I've learned a lot. You were a part of one of my favorite cartoon series, which is Archer. And I mean, that's how many times do you get to speak to someone who has been a part of something that you may have been listening to or watching for years, and the opportunity to get to speak with them? That's amazing.
It's funny. I never really knew how much of the impact Archer had until I, after like maybe the second season that I worked on it. I started on Archer in season 3, and I worked all of season 3, all of season 4. And then I finished on season 5 to be the lead character designer on a sister show that the same company was working on called Chozen. Chozen.
Okay.
And it's funny because like it wasn't until I started like going to conventions and like I would mention like, I work on this show called Archer, and I would say it so casually because to me it was just like another job. But then people would be like, they'd like perk up like, oh, right? What? You work on Archer? No way. And I'm like, oh, wait, what?
See, again, you're oblivious because you're just doing the thing you enjoy doing. Yeah. I mean, now, mind you, there are a handful of people who do. Okay. I'm going to be honest with you, Domo. Mm-hmm. You have worked with DC Comics, Marvel Comics, and a lot of others. This is akin to someone who's trained all of their lives in a sport. And they finally get in the NBA or NFL draft. That's what those are big. That's nothing to just, you're talking about this like casually. Oh, I wrote on Archer. You can. Yeah, I did the DC Comics. Marvel. That's me.
It was one of these things where I think I was on stream the other day, and I think someone asked me about it, and I had such a casual response because of the fact that what it is, oh, you know what it was? Okay, so someone was asking me, so Domo, how does it feel to know that you have like comic books in stores? Like people walk in stores and they pick up comic books and see your name. And I was just like, it's cool. And they're like, what do you mean it's cool? Like, dude, that's amazing. And I guess what it is like, it's sort of like an out of sight, out of mind type feeling where, because I don't see it on a daily basis. And when I'm not seeing it, I tend to just think people don't really care. Like that's like my default is that like nobody really cares, like it's not that big of a deal. And like, but then like when you're like immersed in it and people are telling you like, dude, you're amazing, like wow, this is awesome, like when you're actually in a comic store and you see somebody pick up your book and they see your name or they just see the art and they're like, you see like the enamel in their faces, right? Like, this is amazing. That's when it becomes real. You know what I mean? So otherwise, like, because I don't really see it, I just kind of assume that people don't care.
So it's kind of this thing where you're in the store and you see them picking it up and you just walk casually by them. Yeah, that's me. You want my autograph?
So I have a funny story about that, actually. I went to a comic shop once because I had needed to pick up a comic that I needed references for a book that I was working on for Marvel at the time. I believe I was working on It was a series called Starbrand and Nightmask, and I needed a couple comics to get some references for a couple of characters. And this time my mom had went with me. So, and also I picked up a couple of issues of my own book because I wanted to send to my aunt and uncle. I actually have to they'll give us like a limited free copies of books we work on. But for the most part, we still have to buy our own books in the stores, like when when we want like more, right? So like I had like a copy of my own book, and as I was at the register, like it was just normal for me to buy comics because I'm just as much as a consumer as everybody else, but I just also happen to work on the books. And my mom is like the whole time just standing there looking at me and looking at the clerk. And she looks at me and she looks at the clerk, and she has this like mischievous smile on her face, like this super smile. And I'm just like, I'm looking at her, and I'm like trying to buy my comics, and I'm like, Mommy, why are you looking like that? And then she nudges the clerk, and she's like, my son worked on that book, right?
Exactly.
Like, cause like there's this proud moment, like where she wants to tell the world, like, this is the place where my son has like all of these books, like inside, like on your shelves. And she's like, my son worked on that, Meanwhile, like, I'm just like, I just want to buy comics. Like,
right, Mom, this is not about you. But you know what? As a mother, I'm just going to tell you, I'm with her on it. Yes, my baby drew that. He does not need to pay because he drew it. Well, and I guess it's just I don't want to say desensitized. You're just humble. And you're just doing your thing. So yeah. It's not, the fanfare isn't there, but I get it. Well, no, I don't get it. I'm not gonna... I do want to be like you one day, though. Definitely. Hey, that's Jamila. She's the one that did that podcast. What's the name of it? Yeah, that one. Yeah, that's me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you'll get there. You'll get there. It's just consistency and time is all. That's it right there.
Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful to you for taking time out and sharing your journey and your experience with me. I do have a lot of questions, but we can't do that all in this podcast. So no worries. This is the tip of the iceberg.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Well, let me just ask you this. I don't want anybody not to be able to get familiar with you and then also follow you and keep up with whatever your work is. I don't want you to provide any information that's not available to the public yet. I don't want any insider information unless, we're friends. We can do that. But where can we find you? How do we keep in touch? Do you have any projects? Do you have any advice?
Actually, yes, you can find me at Domo Stanton on literally everything. Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. You can even it always sounds pretentious when I say this, but like you can even Google me, like Google Domo Stanton, and you'll find I've been working in comics now for over 10 years. It's actually 10 years this year. My very first Marvel comic came out in January 2011. So I've been working in the industry now for 10 years. And yeah, like you can Google my name, Dominic Domo Stanton, spelled Dominike, Domo Stanton. And I'm just at Domo Stanton on everything. In terms of what I'm working on, I actually just recently wrote and drew my own story for DC Comics. DC, for the month of February, DC continued a series called Represent, where they wanted to showcase the voices of a lot of creators who often don't get heard in most aspects of the industry. And they recruited me for a story. So I ended up doing chapter 6 in their installment of Represent, where I got to write sort of like an autobiographical type story of events in my life that kind of helped lead me to become the person I am today. And you can find that on any digital platform where you can buy comics. So Amazon Kindle and the DC Comics website, you'll be able to find that. In terms of inspiration and extra words, it's just all about hard work, hard work and dedication, using the time you have to study and build an understanding of what it is you want to do. I feel like there's so many resources out here nowadays to be able to building understanding. Like that's probably the most important word, is building an understanding of how to build a portfolio, how to draw anatomy and do it in a way that helps you understand how to get better. And just not being afraid to be bad at the craft. Because at the end of the day, the more work you put into it, the worst you do, the better you'll get, because the more you'll understand how much you need to improve. So not being afraid to be bad at it and just allowing yourself to use that as motivation to continue to get better and really work hard. I draw almost 18 hours a day and have been doing that for the past 10 years to continue to grow as an artist. And I'm still in a place where I feel like I have so much more growing to do as an artist. So like whenever you see your favorite artist, just know that no matter how great you think they are, they don't think the same way. They're still in a place of growing and learning. So with that in mind, just, keep pushing and keep learning and keep growing.
Those were wonderful, inspirational words. And do you see how he slipped in? Oh, yes, DC Comics gave me an opportunity to write. You are entirely too good. Either you're faking or you are just entirely too good at that. Look at you.
I got nothing. Nothing.
Well, on the end note, congratulations on your 10 years, continued success. Thank you for those words of encouragement.
Thank you.
Please don't try to run and hide from me. I still have more questions, but you have a good rest of your day. And again, thank you.
I appreciate it. Have me back anytime, yo.
We've come to the close of another episode of the End User Talkcast. I hope that what you've heard today will leave you feeling empowered. Thank you for listening. And remember, every day's a training day.